Hi everybody, this is Maria Clark at Sweet Willow Designs and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to learn to upcycle an old leather belt into a fabulous bracelet cuff. Let's get started. I found this old belt at the thrift store and I really liked it for two reasons. Number one, it had this cool buckle that I thought I could use as a pendant, and then it had a nice belt with a metallic sheen and some studs. So I'm going to use that. And then I've got a hole punch and a setter. This is for brads or for eyelets or snaps, ruler, blade, some acetone, fingernail polish remover, and a variety of paints. So I'll take this belt and actually I'm going to do a little bit of measurement around my wrist just to get the right sizing. And as you put this around your wrist, you're going to want to overlap it just slightly so that you have room for the snaps and so that it's a comfortable around your wrist with enough room to move. And you can see I've measured mine out there and I'll mark it with a pencil. I'm going to go ahead and use the end of the belt that's already curved and the cut end and just duplicate that on to the dimensions that I need. And I'll cut along that line. Before I do that, it's really hard to see the mark that I made, so I'm going to get a Sharpie and I'll just darken that mark so that it's easy for me to see and you can see it as well. So here we go. I'm just going to mark it. And you can see that pretty easily. Go ahead and zoom in a little bit here so that you can get a good look at this. And then I've got one of these utility knives. You could use a pair of scissors if you had a heavy-duty pair that was really sharp, but I'm using this utility knife, and I'll just make my first cut. It won't go all the way through, but I can at least get the curve of the cut. And then what I'll do is pull it apart so I can see where I can place the blade and just keep cutting through that section until I get all the way through the belt. It'll take me a few times to get all the way through this because it's kind of thick. Okay, so I've got that apart and I'll just clean it up a little bit. Now I did take that same length that I cut. It had the actual belt holes in it for the buckle, and I didn't actually want to use the ones with the holes, so I cut another piece exactly the same length. And I've got a couple more paints here. I was at the craft store and they had some acrylic leather paints. I have the Lumieres, as you can see there, but also this acrylic set. And then I've got my set of snaps, and it comes in 4 pieces, and then the snap setter. And you could use some of the plastic snap setters. I've got my hole punch. You could also use a nail here. You don't have to go out and buy a punch. But I found this, I really liked this. It was about $5 with a coupon because it's got a lot of different sizes. So I'll make the punch and get both sides done. And you want to make sure that they're placed well so that they mirror each other. And that hole punch will go through the leather. I'm going to take some of the nail polish remover, which is the acetone nail polish remover, and I'm going to take off any sort of top layer finish that might be on this bracelet and clean off my my marks from the Sharpie. And I'm just sort of taking off some of the shine so that the next layers of paint I put on will adhere well. I'm going to go ahead and put the snaps in, and this is a 4-piece snap, so this is the actual head of the snap. And when you buy your snaps, there'll be a set of directions there, and I'll go ahead and put the collet on. And I'm using a rawhide hammer and the eyelet setter. It's actually like a little eyelet that's going to grab that collet. And as you hit the setter, you want to rotate it so that it's actually flaring out the sides. And now what I'm doing is I'm really just making sure that the next part of the snap is on there correctly so that it's snapping the way I want it to, be sure you check that pretty carefully. And here's the other part of the snap set, and I'll take the nail setter, the snap setter, and also the hammer again, and I'll hammer it, and you'll notice I'm kind of going in a circular motion. And there we are. It's as easy as that to set the snaps, and you have a nice heavy-duty snap. That looks pretty good. The next thing we're going to do is actually start painting it. I've got a cosmetic sponge, and I'm going to take the Lumiere paints. I've got several different colors here. I'm not sure exactly which ones I'm going to use. I think I'm going to start with the gold here. And these came in a set of a variety of different colors. And I'm going to take some of that gold Lumiere, and this is for fabric or leather. And I'm going to use that cosmetic sponge, and I'm just going to sort of dab on the gold paint. And you can see that that really starts to give it a pretty nice coverage. And I'm going for a sort of mottled effect here. So I'm just going to take that paint and cover it and go all the way to the end. And you can see that's starting to give it a pretty nice finish. Just kind of clean up my paint a little bit there. I'm going to let that dry a minute. And because I'm doing fall colors, I'm going to go back in with a little bit of the green Lumiere. And I'm going to go right over the gold with the same sponge and just sort of put that mostly at the edges. But I'll go across the bracelet, and you can really see how it's starting to give some depth to the color on the bracelet. And I'll do that all the way across. And you can see that that's really looking pretty good. I wanted to do sort of abstract fall leaves, so I've got a bit of the yellow paint, and this is acrylic paint, so you could thin it with a little bit of water. I'm just using it straight after I did shake the bottle, and then I'm using just a paintbrush, and I'm just going to apply random sort of dots on here to represent leaves. And you can see that I'll go all the way across and just put random, and I'm just building the layers here to get the fall colors on here. So I'll go all the way across with the yellow, and I'll go back in and put a little bit more if I think I needed to. And then I'm going to go in with the ruby red, which is the other leather color that I picked up, and do the same thing. I'm just going to go over that yellow layer now with a layer of red, sort of in random spots to give the illusion of fall leaves. And this is abstract, so it's not gonna, it's just representational, so do whatever kind of coloring you think you might like. You could have stopped actually with just putting the Lumiere. I think that would have been really pretty also. So I'll go all the way to the end. And I like the way that looks. Just kind of clean it up and add any more little dots of red that I think I need to. It's a little bit bright, I think. So after I get this cleaned up, I'm going to go back over it with some of the gold Lumiere, and you'll see how that just sort of tones this down a little bit and gives it a really pretty sheen and a nice look. So again, just with the cosmetic sponge, I'll start to go over that, and you can see how it tones it down a little bit and gives it a really pretty sheen. And I'll just keep putting that on until I get the kind of coverage that I'm looking for. I'm going to go ahead, I think, I'll put a little bit of the Lumiere on the ends just to tidy that up a little bit and give it a little bit more finished look. I'm going to go back to that at the end here. And I thought that the way this was looking, I like the way it looks, but I want to put just another little bit of the Lumiere on. So I'll finish up on the edges. Just give it a nice finish. I'm lightly rubbing it around the edge of the bracelet. You can see how easy this is, and you could paint this in any way that you wanted, customize it any way you like. You could have just left it exactly as it was and just put the snaps in, and that would have been pretty also. But I liked, kind of wanted to have the fall look. And that's turning out really nice, I think. I'm going to put a little bit more of the Lumiere on because I want to tone it down just a teeny bit more. So I'm just going to keep going over that until I get the kind of coverage that I'm looking for. And you can see that this Lumiere is really sheer. So it's not obscuring the yellow or the red, but it is toning it down. And so I'll just keep doing that all the way across, putting on as much as I think I need to. And that's looking really good, I think. I'll do the edges again, make sure that they're really nicely finished. And that's how the bracelet's turning out. I think it's looking pretty good. And really, this is such an easy technique, and you can find so many different kinds of belts at the thrift store. You do want to make sure that you get a genuine leather. This particular one has actually like a paper backing on it. It's got a leather front and a paper backing. And in the future, I would look for strictly leather. And here's the finished piece. It turned out really cute. Hey, I want to thank you all for joining me with this fun project to convert a leather belt into a fantastic bracelet cuff. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for joining me in my studio. Take care.